Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi, and today we have another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm going over all of the champions in detail for the Christmas Fusion event. So I went over these earlier, and I was going to put them in my first video, but this is going to be too long. So I figured I'd just do a separate video just focusing on those champions, going over their kits. I don't spend a ton of time on them, but I do go through everything, looking at the base stats, looking at the kits, seeing if there's some synergy in there, where they can be used, whether it's worth getting them or not. That includes all the rares, the epics, and Pixniel, the legendary, as well. So I figured that's what this video is for. So without ado, let's jump in. But this is Pixniel. She's going to be the new legendary champion. She looks like she's actually going to be really good for Arena. She also might be really good for some of the Doom Tower stuff. It seems like she has some really interesting stuff in her kit. Now, like, is she going to be a great champion? Honestly, I'm not sure. She's a support champion, and I think her kit reflects that. One of the big things, let's start actually with her passive ability so you have an understanding. Whenever an enemy places a freeze debuff on an ally, she has a 20% chance to steal that freeze debuff for herself instead. When she gets a freeze, she has, let me just talk about the skills as if they're booked, right? Once she's booked, she has a 35% chance to steal that freeze off an ally. And then that turns into a 40% chance of her increasing her own turn meter by 25%, which then in turn turns into a 50% chance of removing that freeze altogether. Now, I'm so curious how that interacts with the new freeze set, if those are two different things or if they kind of stack on top of each other. Honestly, I'm not sure. It's an interesting skill because basically she's saying, I'll take the freezes, guys. Don't you worry about it. This is one way to kind of have a pseudo Tormund counter, I believe. Does it make a lot of sense to me? I don't know. I mean, you're talking about percentage chance on a percentage chance on a percentage chance. That doesn't come out to a very high chance of all three things happening. So I am a little curious how this actually works in practice. As always with these skills, until we know the multipliers, until we see it in action, it's a little bit hard to judge. We can get informed ideas, but we're never really going to know until we actually see her in action, truly test it. The other skill she has is A3 ability. Attacks 5 times at random. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing freeze, solid. And then it becomes a 100% chance if someone gets hit twice. So that means at least one champion is going to be frozen for sure. And then there's going to be 3 other hits that may dupe on somebody, and we might get more than one champion frozen or not. It's an okay AoE thing. It's just crowd control is what that is. Doesn't seem like a high percentage chance. It does book up to a 50% chance. That's a much better percentage, I think. A 50% chance to freeze 3 champions and a 100% chance to freeze at least 1. That's not so bad. Moving on to A2. Places increased defense buff, continues heal buff on all allies for 2 turns, and then attacks all enemies under freeze debuffs. Places a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns on all enemies under freeze. It's not a bad skill. It's kind of a weird combination. Again, it's very conditional that they're already frozen. That's interesting so far about Pixniel is she actually seems more suited to pair with Tormund than to have up against Tormund, which I think is kind of an unusual thing. And then the A1 attacks somebody, places a veil on a random ally, or up to a 50% chance to place it on a random ally, and won't place it on herself. I mean, placing veil is definitely good, but you can't determine who it's going to. Random allies, okay. So all in all, it seems all right. It does feel a little bit underwhelming for a legendary champion. Like Shiramani seems flat better in a lot of respects, but this is a support champion, not an attack champion. She has good base defense, actually a solid base attack and good HP. We don't know her multipliers. That's going to have a huge impact on how good she actually is. And this A2 skill seems pretty nice. On a 3-turn cooldown, increased defense, continuous heal, potential with an attack if people are under freeze. I don't know. There's some interesting mechanics going on here. I'm not in love with it. I think it's very safe to say if you guys are going to struggle to do this fusion, this is not a champion you're going to be, really upset that you missed. Unless they change her. If they buff her in some way, well, that's a whole nother ballgame. We never know how these things are going to interact in the future. Many of these fusions and fragment champions that we've had over the last like 6 months or so, they all seem to have a place in the Doom Tower. So whatever might be coming next or not, I think this champion might have a good place for it. I don't know, to be honest. I'll end up fusing her because that's what I kind of feel like I have to do at this point. But I think this may be one of those few legendaries where if you skip it, you're okay. And actually, there might be a good reason to do that because the epics in this, I actually like them a lot. They look really, really good to me. We have to get for the fusion. If you're trying to get Pixniel, this is a champion you're going to want to get. Even if you're not trying to get Pixniel, if you need a decreased attack champion for Clan Boss, this is your guy. He's good. Let's see. This book's up to a 40% chance placing decreased attack. It's on his A1 though. It's not a high percentage chance. I'm well aware of that. There are times when it might not land, but it's on his A1, which means if you put him with a counterattack team, there's a very good chance that is going to land. That is the kind of champion you want to bring. He also brings a decreased crit rate, which again, really nice because when the Clan Boss crits, no fun. It's also good for just general stuff because it's an AoE, attacks all enemies. Great. A3, attacks one enemy, provoke, also heals him by 20% of his max HP. Even if the provoke is a single target, which it is, he at least is healing himself. He's self-heal there. It's not a terrible skill. Obviously, AoE provoke is way better than single target, but you deal with what you can. The other part is this, and I think this is actually really helpful. Reflects 30% of the damage this champion receives back to the attacker. That's nice. That's really nice. So this is going to make him good. It basically has reflect debuff on himself the full fight. But putting that on, provoking that way, it can be, I think, pretty useful with him. It's not the greatest passive in the world, but I like it. I think it's good. Faction Crypt Aura. Really good HP, really good defense. Speed is solid. This is definitely an option for Clan Boss as a decreased attack champion. Ragnar Gold Gleam. Definitely a new champion. This guy actually looks good. I think really good attack. You can see low base defense though. He's going to be squishy. Leech on the A1. He sacrifices HP and then he fills his turn meter up to 75% and places a shield buff that is greater than that HP loss. So he gives up 15% of HP, puts a shield buff worth 20% of his HP, which can't be removed. And even if it kills the champion, it'll go through block damage, it'll go through shield, it'll ignore shield. He'll do that even if it kills him, so you got to be a little careful with that. And then his A3, increase attack on him, and then he will, booked up to 100%, place weaken and decrease defense on the person he's attacking. So Leech, decrease defense, weaken, and then a shield ability. Kind of interesting. With his passive, decreases the cooldown of his Gleam of Avarice, the A3 skill, the one with the decreased defense and weaken. It decreases the cooldown every time he loses 15% HP. So it keeps booking down and down and down. That's kind of interesting. So every time he gets attacked, he has a chance to use that again. Doom Tower, increase attack for that. Interesting champion. Okay. So this guy has he has great base attack, low base defense, so he's going to be squishy. 30% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 7.5%. Decreases turn meter further 3% for each buff on the target. So A1, decreasing attack or decreasing turn meter is always good. But it is a percentage chance. Books up to 50, but still, percentage chance for that. It's interesting. Attacks one enemy, 50% chance of removing 2 buffs, or books up to 75% chance, and 100% chance of stealing 2 buffs if the target has 4 or more. That's an okay skill. Attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing decreased attack and decreased accuracy on all enemies. So that's an AoE skill that can be useful. I'll be honest, I don't see a real place for this guy in the game. I think he's too squishy to use in dungeons. And I think doesn't bring enough to use in arena unless the multipliers are just insane. The only way I see him really being used. Let's see who else we have. We also have Gerhard the Stone. It's another one of these epics for the fusion. He's got, looks like pretty solid base defense, low HP though. That's going to be his death knell. Attacks one enemy, stun debuff for 1 turn. Low chance. The chance gets higher if the enemy has more than 75% turn meter. So it goes from 25% to 50%. Okay, I guess that's cool. On the A1, it's not bad. Increased crit rate, increased crit damage for 2 turns, and then he attacks an enemy with his A2 ability, and he's going to ignore 25% of the target's defense. For every buff on this champion, he ignores 50% of the target's defense if the target is under an increased defense buff. Excuse me. So that's not bad. Definitely the buffs are good, and ignoring defense is always nice. His passive, he's immune to fear, true fear, freeze, provoke, sleep, and stun debuffs. That is always good. And he brings a resist aura to the Doom Tower, which is kind of an odd aura for this kind of attack champion. I guess it's good speed. My only issue is that HP is so low. I'm afraid he's not going to be able to survive. I mean, that's really low. That's lower than most rare champions, or a lot of them anyway. He has a solid base defense, but all of his damage is based off of attack. So I don't know how you would build this guy. You either build him super squishy and but like, I don't think his stuff has enough going on here. This single target, yeah. My guess is he's not really gonna have much of a place in this game. Dagger looks cool. The kit looks cool. I don't know about everything else. Like, you can see low base HP, low base defense, decent speed, decent attack. But for a rare champion, hits 2 times. Each crit decreases the target's turn meter by 4%. So 8% target, turn meter decrease. Turn meter is always cool. AoE. This is what's so great about this champion, guys. We have a new War Maiden AoE decreased defense buff. That's huge, really necessary for like the big decreased defense buff, 60% too. That's a really nice skill right there, guys. That's next level skill. So you are going to be seeing this champion, especially early levels, guys. If you are free to play, if you're new to this game, you just started your account, this is absolutely 100% a champion you want to get. Going to be great in arena, going to be great in dungeons. You want to get this champion. Decreased defense is a huge, huge skill. And then the A3 attacks one enemy, so single target, 50% chance of placing decreased attack, and 50% chance of placing decreased attack. So he places the small decreased attack. 50% chance, books up a 75% chance, and will place the big decreased attack if they're under a decreased defense buff. So land this one first, 75% chance, but I mean, it's a big one. But land that first, and then land the second, and you get both decreased defense and decreased attack from one champion. This might be somebody that, if you are early in the game, if you're new, you're getting started on Clan Boss, this might be a good champion for you. It's going to bring you decreased attack, going to bring you decreased defense. That can be really, really strong ability. It's going to be really helpful too if you bring it with a debuff extender, because there is only 75% chance maxed out on these, so it's not like they're guaranteed. But if you're real desperate, it might be really good for the decreased attack at least. The decreased defense, I think, is good for everything. So that's going to be great. Tiger Soul, attack one enemy, 40% chance of placing the poison debuff. Solid. 75% chance of placing weaken debuff. The weaken debuff. Okay. And then places a block debuff and increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns. I'll be honest, I don't love this champion. I mean, great base defense, great base attack, horrible base HP. I don't like those debuffs so much, personally. Champion looks cool, right? Great. Face paint, I'm down. He's got the little raven here on the shoulder and the wings over here on the other one. Like, that's cool. But I don't see any place for her in the game. Quite frankly, like, I don't think she's going to get used very much. Again, always depends on the multipliers. It could be completely wrong on that, guys. We do have a couple rares here in the Ogryn faction. Roughstone to AoE. AoE on the A1 is always something to take note of. If it has good multipliers, if it hits hard, that could be really nice. This is an attack-based champion. He does have good attack there, especially for a rare champion, and good HP. Really bad defense, but the rest is okay. Decrease the target's max HP by 15% of the damage inflicted. I wonder what that's going to be for. Doom Tower, anybody? And then this one is ignore 50% of the target's defense, 50% chance of an extra turn if this attack is critical. So, okay, for a rare champion, sure, I get it. Chance for an extra attack, ignore some defense, hit hard on that AoE ability. Yeah, there's some potential there. I'm not excited, but some potential. Gear Grinder, 7.5% continuous heal buff if this attack is critical. Cool. HP attack, so that's good. He's got a really good base HP too, so that's actually nice. Heals all allies by 15% of their max HP, not his, unfortunately, but still 3-turn cooldown on that heal, and revives an ally with 50% HP and turn meter. 5-turn cooldown. There's just not a lot of revive champs that are rare, so this might be a very valuable champion. for people that are really struggling with that. And I know Ogryn Tribes doesn't have, I don't think, any revivers. Certainly not a lot of them if they do. So that can be good for them if you're going through faction wars. Oh yes, we got this champion, Panthera. Oh man, brings me back to my to my good old Thundercat days. Anyway, we got attacks one enemy 3 times. Each critical hit has a 50% booked up to 75 chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 3%. It's kind of a weird, the turn meter percentage thing is getting a little weird now, but that's kind of a cool skill on the A1. I wish it was more definite, but still, anytime you can decrease turn meter, that's good. Triple attack A1 is always nice too. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a booked up to 100% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction. Again, wonder what this could be good for. Doom Tower, anybody? And then Perfect Veil and Reflect damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. Books down to a 3-turn cooldown. These are all 3-turn cooldowns. It takes a ton of books, dear God. But I can see this being really, really useful for Doom Tower, actually. It seems like a really good champion for that. You need that 100% heal reduction for some of the bosses. And it's really good against the Nether Spider specifically. That's definitely somebody you want that for if you can. Reflex damage, Perfect Veil, those are definitely some nice buffs to help them stay alive. And the triple hit with the decreased turn meter, nothing wrong with that either. Pig sticker you need for the fusion. Good base attack. Base HP and defense are so-so. 50% chance for heal reduction debuff. Doom Tower, guys. That books up to like 75% chance, I believe, on the A1. Decrease target's max HP by 20% of the damage inflicted on the A2. Decrease the target's max HP by 30% of the damage inflicted on the A3. I think it's very clear where she's for. Even her aura says Doom Tower. So take that for what you will. If you're struggling, really struggling, guys, these might be champions you want to go for. I just highly recommend Destroy Set. It seems to be way better. But hey, you gotta use what you can get where you can get it. Dwergar, a Dwergar dwarf here. He looks mean. Let's see. A1, extra hit if it's critical, and the extra hit places decreased speed debuff. That's really nice for A1. A2, attacks all enemies. Each critical hit fills his champion's turn meter by 7.5%. That's not bad. And then A3, these are all 3-turn cooldowns. Places increased accuracy buff on all allies. Haven't seen that pretty much at all. That can be really nice. Then attacks all enemies and has a booked up to 100% chance of placing a 30% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So AoE decreased defense, increase ally accuracy. This guy, I think if you're trying to progress, free-to-play player, like I said, you get this rare champion, he's definitely worth taking up, at least to like level 40 or 50. I think he can really help you with your dungeon progressions, honestly. Always depends, as always, on the multipliers. But he does have low HP, does have low defense, but his attack is pretty high. But every part of this kit is valuable. That's hard to find in a rare champion. Decreased speed, even if it's on a single target, that's still valuable. AoE plus fills his own turn meter, that's valuable. And then increased accuracy buff on all allies and decreased defense debuff, AoE, that's definitely valuable. So definitely some places in there for him. Those are the champs, guys. Hopefully that helps inform your decision of whether you want to do this fusion for Pixniel, whether there's any of these individual champions that you want to focus on or not. Yeah, I'm trying to help as best I can here, to provide a little information for you guys. So till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.